So, today we are looking at a game with a long and rather anime-ish title. Reincarnated as a Dark Lord before taking over the world with power just under 1 billion. So, we'll go through the details of the game first, and then we will talk about the critique at length, because I am very excited with this game. I think it is a very good game in the idle incremental genre, of course, because that seems to be the games I mostly do. And I have great hopes for where it might go in the future, and I think it is already a pretty good game, which is why I am showcasing it to you guys. This is our game screen that we are looking at now. We have one button, which is Awake, and the idea is that we are someone who has been killed or defeated in some way. Unfortunately, we don't have much lore before this moment, but the king's army is approaching to end us again, because for some reason they are aware that we are reincarnating, and it is going to get here in 500 in-game seconds. That's what this 500 means in the corner. Despite it being on the same bar, it has nothing to do with power. And in the top left you see where the king's army is approaching, and the king's army has 250 power. So it's that anime concept where they actually give power ratings to everyone. So the king's army has 250 power, and we need that or more than that to be able to defeat it by the time it arrives. How do we do that? We increase our own power, which is currently 0, and then we have other stats and resources that we will gain as time goes on. And here we are in this sort of crimson void that we are floating in, and we are going to awake. Right, so it's going to take us 2 seconds to awake. So if we click awake, there's a progress bar that goes our process of awaking, and 2 seconds are consumed before the king's army arrives. I call them seconds. They've got a S next to it, but they're just kind of time units, because I don't think this is already happening in the kind of the seconds that it claims to be. So I don't know, maybe days or something like that, or hours might be more accurate. Anyway, we have awoken, and we are in a dark, cavernous place. There's no flavor text to say where we are or anything like that, unfortunately, but we discover that we are in a cave. Now, the first thing we can do is absorb some mana that I suppose helps us awaken a little bit more, and gives us the energy to do some things. So we are gathering mana, and as you can see, mana is in fact a resource, which means we can use it and consume it. Whereas power is more like a stat, so we can't really consume power, but we need it for certain things. So now what we can do is we can grow a limb for 4 turns at 2 seconds each, and the limb will give us some power and some movement. Movement isn't necessarily generally, it is just necessary for certain actions that we need to take. So we have some movement, we have some power, and we can now have multiple things we can do. We can eat a rat, which will give us some more power. We can explore the cave, which takes 2 movement. That's why we needed to develop the movement. We needed limbs. Or we can grow our limbs a little bit more. We can spend some more time growing some limbs out. I don't know if it means grow extra limbs or just like strengthen our limbs. It's left up to us to decide exactly what that means. So let's just explore the cave. Bearing in mind that we are rapidly losing time before the king's army approaches, so we need power in that time. We do have 2 power things, but we can just come back and do them. Right, so we have explored the cave for 3 times 2.5 seconds, and we've discovered that there is a cave exit that we can go through, and there is an underground passage that we can go and take a look at. And we will come back and do some more of these things soon, but for now let's just exit the cave. Let's go take a look around outside. It takes us 4 seconds to get out the cave, and there's stuff out here. We can zoom in or out and we just use the left mouse button to drag around, and that's pretty much all the controls we need. We just click on the things. Now we can travel to the forest. Exiting the cave, we find a forest that is 5 time unit seconds worth of movement, and we gain some more movement because we're moving around. We're getting healthier. We're sort of getting more used to our new body and things like that, so we're gaining more movement. We head to the forest, and in the forest we discover that we can explore the forest. There is a source of mana here, so we can gain a bit more mana, but we're doing okay. or there is a nearby village. So let's go have a look at the village, just for 7-second units. We'll go have a look there and see what the village is about. Yeah, we gained a couple more movement stats from that. We've discovered that there is villages that we can talk to, but they won't talk to us in our current form, whatever that form may be. We can invade the village, but we need 100 power for that. So that is way with, we only have 4 power, so it's way with outside of our attempt at the moment. And we can have a look around the village. Or we can travel to a green field, so there's some open green field area that we can travel to at some point and have a look around. Or going back to the forest, we can explore the forest a bit more. So let's go and check out the forest a bit. We're not quite ready for the village yet. We need to get a little bit tougher. Now, in the forest, there is something interesting that we find. We find some slimes that we can eat. And while that sounds like a horrible thing to do, let's eat the slimes. It just requires 1 power to kill them. But again, that power is a stat, it's not a resource. So, resources like mana we might consume in certain actions, so our mana will go back to 0. But stats, they're just how tough we are. So power is fine. And nothing, I think, consumes power that I can remember. So we're eating the slimes. You might be wondering why I'm doing that, but it does unlock something very useful to us, which is specifically the ability to, we'll see it in a moment, shapeshift. Now, I only found this by experimenting with this. So when you start the game, you do kind of try various different routes and see what they do. Because if you die, then you go back to the awake state, but you have something called essence that you can use to speed certain of your stat growths up. But you don't actually need the essence to finish it in this state of the game. This is just chapter 1 of the game. The other chapters haven't been done yet. The developer's still working on them. So this is kind of phase 1 of this game development. And I see so much potential in it because this is a lot of fun. It's very enjoyable. If you're into the incremental thing, it's very, very enjoyable. I don't know why that's glowing. I think it's because it's what I sort of last clicked on. Anyway, so let's develop the shape-shifting skill for 4 seconds of experimenting, I suppose, with the abilities that the slimes gave us. And now we can shapeshift. So we have shapeshifting just at level 1, but that's all we really need. Which does allow us to now talk to the villagers. So let's talk to the villagers. And we'll talk to, I guess, 11 of them, or spend 11 shifts of talking to villagers. We still have like 400 odd seconds before the king's army approaches, and I know our power hasn't gone up yet, but we will start getting power very quickly soon. So yeah, don't worry too much about that. But we will have taken all of these things of devouring rats and growing extra limbs and things like that. We'll come back and do them at some point. So those you can go and get them. But I'm just going through what sort of is the optimal route that I've found to get to part of the solution. We'll get to the point where we beat the king's army, and then I'll stop playing then, just because you'll need to resolve the next thing that happens yourself. And yeah, that'll be what I leave for you to do. As I said before, the link is in the description, the rather long link. So come and play this game. Come and check it out. Give the devs some love. But let us continue for the moment. So we are going to talk to the Undertaker, and from him we will learn some undead knowledge, specifically how to raise skeletons, which will give us 3 power each and a minion. The fact that it gives us a minion isn't too helpful in this version of the game, but I'm sure it will apply later. Like I said, I'm very excited to see where this game goes. But what we need is 1 undead knowledge, which is a stat, so we won't consume that, so we only need 1. But it will require 1 corpse and 1 mana. We don't have any corpses, and we only have 5 mana, so we will need some more of that. Let's first of all see where we can get corpses from. So let's explore around the village a bit. And we find there's a graveyard. And what's in a graveyard? But corpses. So we can get as many corpses as the graveyard will give us, which is just 18, and there are 20 turns of raised skeletons, so we'll need some more corpses from somewhere else to totally finish that off. But for now, let's just grab these 18. They only take 1 second left. Apparently we can dig very, very quickly. Where we're storing them, I don't like to ask, but let's go and store them. Right, so we have all of the corpses we can get from the graveyard. We can only raise 5 skeletons, but I mean, while we're here, we might as well grab the 5, and it's boosting our power fairly quickly now. And now what we can do is we can retreat back into the cave, and let's eat some rats. Let's get that power up there, and we'll grow some more limbs. Let's try and get that number up a bit, because there's some things in our near future that will require a bit more power than we have at the moment. So we've grabbed 5 rats, we've eaten that. Let's grow some more limbs, and sort of get ourselves a bit tougher. I don't know if we're looking like a spider now, or we're just filling ourselves out, getting a little bit stronger. And we can grow some horns. It'll give us a bit of fear. Again, we don't really use fear in this version of the game, but it's nice to have. But it does give us 4 power times 2, so it's an extra 8 power. It's a nice little power spike there. And now we can start growing fangs, and we need crystals for that. But I wouldn't go down that route just yet. It is one of the routes to sort of the current set of endings. There are multiple endings to this game, depending on what solution you take to the King's second phase of attack. But let's check out a little bit further underground while we're down here. We'll explore these underground passages. It really would be nice if these had like flavor text or something to sort of describe what we're looking at. So what do we find down here? Well, first of all, we find some more mana, so that's useful. So let's just grab this mana that we have. We can explore deeper, but we don't need to do that at the moment. I'll leave that for you guys to dig. It's a path to another one of the endings. Or we can harness some crystals, but we don't need that just yet. So I'll leave that alone. That does consume a fair bit of time. Or we can devour some spiders, and they give us power. And then they unlock something that we need eventually. So let's grab these. We're up to 40 power now. The King's army is coming closer. It's traveled about nearly half of the way. 250 will be half of the way. Right, so now there is the Spider Queen that will give us a nice 30 power, but it requires 70 power before we can clash with her, so we'll need to go and find more power somewhere else. There's some more mana there. Should we go and raise a few more minions? We can just grab another 5. Gives us 3 power each. Does jump our power up quite nicely. So we're up to the 60s now. Let's explore the forest a little bit further. I know there's some power gathering bits in here that we can go for. Right, so we can eat some wolves. A little unfortunate for the wolves, but quite fortunate for us, because they give us 2 power each. We only find 5 of them. That's fine. 2.5 seconds each. And we'll grab that bear, but we have 70 power, so we can go and eat the Spider Queen. That'll give us a nice 30 power, taking us up to 100. And then what we can do is actually invade the village and smash them out a bit, and we'll get some nice resources there that we'll be using. But let's grab the Spider Queen for now. Now there's no more mana there, but there is some mana up here. We're going to be using that to raise some more corpses, so let's just grab this mana while we're here. While we're about it, since we're here, we might as well get this bear taken down. Why not? It's another 10 power. It does take 12 seconds, so it's a bit of an expensive power spike. But yeah, we're doing fine. We've still got 200 odd before the King's army arrives. So we'll nab that. It's up to 111. And now let's take this village. Nice quick 6 seconds. The village didn't know what hit him. Let's raise, I suppose we have 8 skeletons, so let's grab those while we're about it. .130 power, just past our own halfway mark to be able to survive the King's army. So we're doing pretty good. We're doing pretty good so far. But we only have a couple more mana and we've run out of corpses. Fortunately, what we can do is we can just slaughter the villagers for the village that we have now crushed. And we can get our final 2 raised skeletons, so let's grab those quickly. And we have unlocked skeleton mages, but we need more corpses and more mana for that, but they give us 10 power each, so that's a hell of a power jump. So let's just grab the last of the villagers, and then we'll need to go and find some more mana. No mana there, no mana there. There might be some on the green field. It'll cost us 10 seconds to go there. And this will also take us 10 seconds, but we might as well have a look in the forest. I think this will unlock some more interesting stuff for us. I can't quite remember where I got the power for this. I played this game through and I managed to get all the 3 endings on Firefox, so it worked absolutely fine on Firefox. Now I'm on Chrome, and it's working absolutely fine on Chrome as well, so you should be fine in whatever browser you want. Right, so we can fight the Guardian. It does cost us an expensive 20 seconds, but it gives us 25 power, so let's take the Guardian down. And then we will need to go and find more mana. I thought there might have been some up here, possibly if I touch the rune stone, but we will come back to that and see if we need more mana over here. There is a whole pathway we can go through to find, so like devouring fairies can give us mana, and that unlocks a sort of a generate mana tree. But we need to boost our movement from 35 to 50 before we can catch them. So we might have to do that if necessary, but I don't think we need to do that. I think we need to go to the green field and go and try and see what we can find there in terms of mana. Oh, look at that! There's another 10 mana. So let's grab that. So we have 10 corpses, and we all have 10 mana, and we can explore the green field when we get there. But we don't need to do that just yet. We're just trying to get this number up to the 250 that we require, and I think we get more than that with these skeletal mages that we're about to resurrect. So let's head back down to the graveyard, well, wherever we've been storing our corpses from the graveyard. And yeah, so we can get 10 of these because we've got 10 corpses and 10 mana, and that'll give us 100 power. It'll give us up to 260, so we'll be safe from the king's army. Just barely, but nonetheless we win. And we'll have a little bit of time left over to do a little bit more research around, because once we beat the king's army, that doesn't mean the king will give up. Right, so 260 power, so we are safe from this. We have 70 seconds to twiddle our thumbs and find things that we need to do, yeah, before the king's army approaches and we move into the second phase of the game. Well, let's have a look at the green field while we're about it. It'll take 40 seconds. It takes a little bit of time, but the field areas are quite valuable. There's some interesting things to find there. But we have all the corpses we need, I think. So we're finished with corpses, and we've got our little own mini army of skeletons and skeletal mages, and apparently that beats whatever armed force the king is sending to us, with us in the middle of it all, I suppose, where we're able to envenomate and fear and generally fight enemies. So we're going to defeat the king's army without too much trouble. So here we have the ability to slaughter some scouts and give us a bit more power, and some more souls, which we can use if we go down one of the pathways. We can invade the field outpost, but that'll take 300 power, and we're a little way away from that yet. That is another route to one of the third of the endings that I've found so far. Yeah, or we can just grab some movements, grow some wings. It'll help us in our fight, I'm sure. It'll scare people a bit more. It'll give us some extra movement, plus 20 movement, which will be enough to go and catch those fairies, and that'll be where we can get some more mana from. We seem to have used all of the natural sources so far. I don't know if there's another one past the field outpost, but okay, it sometimes pauses depending where you are on the screen. Maybe I clicked on something. So yeah, so we can do that, and we've got that. So let's go and consume some fairies just for the last few seconds before the king's army arrives. Right, we have destroyed the king's forces. He will send someone stronger. So now we have an S rank hero approaching who is 1,000 power, and we need to escalate our power from 266 to more than 1,000 to beat him. And there, like I said, there are 3 routes that are found to do that. I think there are just 3 endings in the game, which is through the field outpost, through the deeper into the caves, or through somewhere else in the cave, sort of modifying ourselves. Those are our 3 solutions, and you can get all 3. Now, we didn't do it because I knew my way through to defending against the king's army, but if we don't get our 250 power before he arrives, we get slain, which means that we get to reincarnate. So either you get slain, or you can just hit escape and reincarnate and give up with this life. And when you reincarnate, okay, interesting, it didn't run the essence gathering. What normally happens is it runs a little count of the amount of power that you have, and that will give you a certain amount of essence. And then you can use essence. Did we get any essence? No, we didn't get essence. What the essence normally does is unlocks some other abilities here, where you can give yourself some mana, bonus mana to start with, some bonus power to start with, and a few other things that you can unlock to speed up some of the pathways down the game. Again, not necessary for this version of the game. As you saw, I got the power to defeat the king's army fairly trivially after a little bit of experimentation to find my way through the route, and I can get the power to, well, the ability to unlock all 3 of the endings without using the essence. It does help a little bit, speeds things up a little bit, but I haven't really used it yet, and I don't think it is really important for this version of the game. It'll be a lot more significant in the later versions of the game. So yeah, if you get to the one of the endings, it says you have finished chapter 1 and there's more chapters coming. So that's all the gameplay I'm going to show, and how that sort of works. And so if you're just here for the gameplay, thank you for watching. I hope this has been interesting enough for you to come and play this game and see if you can get to the endings. It is quite pleasant to rummage around and find them, and I quite enjoy this as a sort of an exercise in my own imagination. I can envision the scenes, I suppose, picking from movies and pictures and things that I've seen of what it looks like with our hero awakening in this dark cave and absorbing mana, and then exiting the cave and descending upon this largely defenseless village once you have enough power to defeat all the villagers, and so on and so on. It is really nice, and kind of my first criticism is that this needs to help that mental imagining a bit more. It would be nice if there was more flavor text that would appear for each thing that you click to sort of suggest how you're doing it. Get some writing in there, and give the player more material to build the mental image from. This is very nice. It's kind of like an interactive novel really, but you're doing a lot of the heavy lifting as the player to create the scenes that are happening. And all this has done is really sort of sketched out the framework so far, which doesn't really help us too much as a player building that kind of experience in. So the first thing is I would have some flavor text appearing. This is similar to another game that I played, and that had a lot of interesting flavor text, although the UI was a little bit ramshackle and cluttered. So you'll need to figure out how to fit the flavor text in somewhere on the screen, like a log that pops up here with each thing that you click on, help the player's imagination flesh out a bit more, but in a sort of conservative, tidy way, because you don't want to overclutter the screen. Other than that, it would be nice if this was a bit more themed. These are just like kind of square boxes with the illumination around them. We really need artwork here, some more theming, Dark Lord theming of some sort. I'm not sure what would be ideal. Give it metal boxes with rivets or something like that, or spider webs or something. I don't know, but it does need a bit more theming. I love this background. This kind of reddish, slowly sort of shifting background is absolutely stunning. I like it a lot. I love this design. I think it's very, very. It actually shifts based on where my cursor is. That's interesting. I like this. This background is beautiful. I think it's very, 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 very pleasant, very, very comforting. but we do need some theming around the boxes and things like that. While we're talking about the UI, I don't think you really need a tutorial. I think a little bit of UI design shifting would be quite nice. The main thing is I would like a more visible difference between resources and stats, because I'm collecting this. I can't tell if this is a stat or a resource in terms of it getting used in the later things that actually consume mana. It would just be nice to know that maybe color the resource as sort of a yellow or something like that, and the text here yellow rather than green. So green for stats, things that don't change, that just make you better, and then yellow for resources, things that you're collecting that you can then like spend as a currency, as it were, for certain tasks. I think that might be a hopefully quick and quite pleasant visual change that will help the player understand what's going on quite nicely. The other thing is I would separate this top bar. I was confused. I thought this was like something to do with power, this time running out at first, before I understood the flow of the game. And it confused me greatly, because like it was going down, and I'm like, how is it going down? Does the King's Army attack if I get below 250? What is going on here? And it stressed me out, and I didn't understand it until we got to the zero and there. So separate this out into a little box on its own somewhere, and title it, sort of time remaining or something like that. Maybe give it a box and give it a mouse over that sort of says King's Army approaching, and then text you require 250 power to beat him, because you can put a bit more text in if it is a tooltip. So I'm thinking just put the counter in the corner, put this second progression bar, absorb mana, at the bottom here, give it a box above it. What is this? Okay, it's just a little bit of information about it. And these are the controls down here, so tooltips. So yes, a tooltip like that. Don't have King's Army approaching there, just have time remaining, and a little box over there, and then if you tooltip over that, it says King's Army approaching, you require 250 power to defeat the approaching army. So you don't need that on the screen, but you do need your power box. This power box is very, very nice. It just needs some theming around it. And then I would put the progress bar for your current task at the bottom, and I would put a little box with flavor text just above it to say, you awake in a cold, dark, dripping place. You absorb your first mana to try and power yourself and become alive again. You can use some of that mana to grow your limbs now that you have the power, and return your body to a workable form, and so on. So that kind of text down there, just to help the player form a mental picture of what's going on, because without artwork, a lot of players will be turned off by the fact that they have to do all of the imagining themselves, whereas other games obviously do a lot of the work for you in terms of giving you an image to build your imagination around. So I think this needs a little more help for the players. Other than that, I mean, that's all the sort of the general critique I have for the UI. The sounds, well, there's no sounds. I really wish there were sounds. There are no sounds, unfortunately. This game does need sounds. It needs spooky, slow, very pulled back music in the background, and maybe little beeps or something as you click on the buttons, and sort of progression happens. Not beeps. Beeps are wrong. Little sort of metallic chinks or something like that. Some soft noise, but not a beep, because you don't want to drag the player into thinking of this as a game. So you need little soft noises in the background to show the progression, and then the music behind that. And then, of course, as I always say, you'll need a little button like these down here for quality of life controls to turn the music off if the player doesn't like it, and to change the volume and things like that. Don't forget that stuff. It is quite important for players. So yeah, definitely include that. Artwork, as I said, this needs a lot more theming. You don't really need art for the scenes. You can leave it up to the player with a little bit of flavor text to describe it. I mean, if there was art for it, that would be incredible. But that's a long road to go down, and you need a decent artist. Try to avoid AI art, because that will make this game look cheap. So either find a real artist who can, even if they take AI art and convert it into something better looking, or just generate the art themselves, through their own skills, something like that. But yeah, don't just rely on AI art. And you don't even really need art. You do need good writing though. So write some flavor text for these things as the task is completing. It needs to pop up with a bit of flavor text there just to help the imagination a bit. Gameplay is really, really good. I love the progression. I can sort of see how you've tried to balance it out and give the player the ability to do a bunch of stuff that will just allow them to get enough power for the event that they're trying to prepare for. It's really, really good game design in terms of gameplay and game balancing and things like that. Bravo, full marks plus bonus there. I enjoyed this a lot, specifically for that reason. I think it's a good incremental. It's not really an idle incremental, but it's an incremental. I enjoyed it quite a bit. And I can see you've added a lot of stats and things like that don't do anything at the moment, but I'm assuming you're planning on implementing them into sort of expanding this chapter and later chapters, and I'm looking forward to that a lot. I'm really excited to see where this is going, and I will definitely give this a second look when it gets to that point. And the immersion, the immersion is fine. I just wish there was a bit more story build up to what's going on. Who are we? Why is the king's army approaching? What is going on? Can we make friends with the villagers? Will that be added in a chapter? That might be a bit more fun to pull us into the immersion if we can turn the villagers onto our side rather than making a skeletal army. And I mean, I know we're a Dark Lord trying to take over the world, but it would be nice if there is a story of why we've become a Dark Lord, something to give the player a sense of justification being this evil Dark Lord who's slaughtering people. Were we treated deeply unfairly? How has this king been horrible to us, and now we need to slaughter him? All of that kind of stuff. So that kind of immersion, I think, would be a nice addition to the game, to give the player a flag to rally behind, and some sort of sense of this is why I'm doing this, rather than just being an evil sod. So I mean, look, I can keep talking about this game for ages. So that's all the critique I'm going to give at this point. I think this is fantastic. I love the idea of it. I really cannot wait to see more of it. Developer, please keep going and make this game. And players, come and play it and give the developer some love. Maybe have a look at their other games and see if there is something you might want to buy. He's got a couple of games on Steam. Can we go to the start page of it? Here it is. So he's he just says there's more chapters coming. There's some links to follow. There's some private feedback. There's some stuff in the comments. See if you agree with him, and check out Farmkeeper and Hacky on Steam, and view all by him. Cuddle Code is the developer, or the developer studio's name. I think it's a lovely dev name. I enjoy that a lot. This isn't the most cuddly game, I guess, but still, it's a promising name for a developer and a dev studio if it gets there. So come and give this game some love. Come and give the developer some love. Check out the other games to see if they are the sort of thing you want to buy. I might even give them a look in future episodes. Who knows? We shall see. And there is a downloadable version as well, but it is still classified as a demo because it's still early days in the game. But I think it is a good game to play, even though it is early days, so come and play it. And thank you for watching. Like if you liked it. Please comment because on the video rather than on the devs thing, or also on the devs thing, because I love to hear from you guys. You can even tell me things I'm doing wrong if you want. And subscribe if you want to see more videos from me about indie games that I think you should play and I think need some attention. And I hope to see you in the next video. And goodbye.